a full-blown Nigerian by whatever standard you can be a Nigerian, and a very patriotic and good Nigerian for that matter. So I have no reason to shy away from my responsibility. Neither do I have any reason to abdicate my responsibility. Like you all recall, in the 8th Senate, I actually sponsored that same bill. And unknown to many people, I did not pursue the bill at that time because at the time I was going to consider it for the debate on the second reading, the political atmosphere was already getting charged. And I reckon, in my own thinking, and very rightly so, that the atmosphere was not right for even debating the subject matter. Because at the end of the day, we'll be missing the point. So, of course, I did not pursue it. And to God be the glory. God is merciful to me. I came back again in this night's Senate. And on assessing the reasons why I introduced the bill in the 8th Senate in the first instance, I've seen that these reasons have not abated. If anything, they are actually assuming a life of their own. And so I decided that this bill be introduced. And so it was on the 12th of this month. Now, between that period and today, I have listened very carefully and attentively. And I've also read copiously comments, analysis, and all things that people have been saying arising from the introduction of this particular bill, which was read for the first time. And I appreciate that we're in a democracy, and so all the commentaries is actually a confirmation that the beauty of democracy is people are free to comment and to say whatever they want to say. Beyond that, I'll also say the commentaries and statements being made, of course, can be categorized from the good, the bad, the ugly, and the very ugly. Why this is unfortunate, I don't have any problem with that because it's democracy and people have the right to hear their views and say whatever they want to say. The other point I would like to say very clearly is that in introducing this bill, I did that altruistically. I have no any other motive other than to respond to the constitutional mandate given to me to participate in creating laws for the order and good governance of our federation. And I'm aware, beyond reasonable doubt, that when you look at issues which you in your own reckoning believe requires some form of legislation, it must be issues that you believe will be meeting the objective that the Constitution itself set for you, which is to ensure that there is order and good governance. So for me, the issue of hate speech is not new, even though in the commentaries I've seen by many people who never even read the bill, and they say so even in their commentary. Very highly respected Nigerians that have not even read the bill, but they've gone ahead to still make analysis and commentaries and the like. So for me, I just want to clear the air. This bill was introduced by my humble self, and at this point, I will introduce somebody to you who is a very good friend of mine, a friend of 24 years friendship, and to debunk all the naysayers, the haters, and those who do not wish to see good things happen in this country, who want to associate everything we do to our fault lines of ethnicity and religion. I want to debunk their thinking that Nigeria has so much goodness in it, and that those who are in different divides of our fault lines have had cause to work together, and they are still working together for the goodness of this country. I also appreciate the fact that, of course, the major concern is, why do you have to say death by hanging? As far as I'm concerned, of course, when you bring a bill and it is read the first time, that is a proposal that will go through debate, a proposal that will go through public hearing. At the stage of debate, like you all know, we look at the merit, the basic principles behind the bill. In which case, we are to say, for example, is hate speech a problem in this country? Do we need to legislate on it? And what should be the nature? It is when you go for public hearing that those who have now seen the content of the bill can pick on all the areas they believe they agree with or do not agree with, offer suggestions and recommendations, so that all of this is taken in, and at the end of the day, we come out with something that we know is implementable and is acceptable to all Nigerians. Until and unless this is done, I want to say very clearly that there are so many people who have jumped the gun by jumping to conclusions in their own imagination. So, like I said, at this stage, let me invite Barrister S.C. Peters. Please come over here. Barrister S.C. Peters is my friend of 24 years standing. At the time we met, I don't know him from Adams, he doesn't know me from Adam. But we met as young men. And we've maintained that cordial relationship since then to date. When in the 8th Senate, I thought of this particular issue, and I saw what happened in Kenya after their 2009 election and the response they gave. And I discussed this with him. Initially, he was very busy. He never even had time to look at it. He pleaded with me that he was actually having so many cases, but I should give him time. One good night, almost after 1, he called me and said he has noticed this issue of hate speech is becoming a very serious problem in this country. And I think there is need for us to look at that bill again. That was how we worked on it, and I finally introduced it. I invited him here today, not because of anything, but to prove those who thought that this bill was sponsored by any other interest in this country, that they are wrong. Barrister S.C. Peters, Sepiribo, Cromwell Peters, is from Rivers State. He's an Ijaw man by tribe. He's a Christian. I, Abdullahi Sabi, I'm a Bargu man from Niger State, from the north. I'm also a Muslim. But as far as this subject matter is concerned, we have discussed this matter looking at the fate of our citizens who were victims of so many crises in this country, leading to death. And it was on that note that we felt this bill is necessary and timely. The records are clear, and if you are a researcher, You can go on and do this research and tell us if you see something different from what we have seen. The records are very clear. We have so many crises across this country, which in all instances, when you looked at them, those who have researched this crisis came up with one conclusion: that the precursor of all violence in this country that are attributable to ethnicity and religion are always preceded by hate speech. We stand to be corrected. But the question to ask here is, why must people lose their life innocently for crises that they were not part of? Simply because somebody has made a statement somewhere and some other people decide to take the law into their hand, associate you with the fault lines that the person has talked about, and then you become a victim of that particular situation. So for us, for me, as far as I'm concerned, the main import of bringing this bill is to make sure that the issue of victims, people suffering as a result of this, is put to check. Life cannot be bought in the market. Every life matters. I know people have said the bill is designed to prevent free speech. This is further from the truth. We are guided by the Constitution. The Constitution has about 11 rights, fundamental rights that has been spelled out in it. And to the best of my knowledge, the very first one, Section 33, talks about right to life, which means if you are not even alive, how do you enjoy free speech? Those who are killed, can they be talking about free speech? And the Constitution says everybody is equal. That's why we don't support discrimination. This bill talks about discrimination on the grounds of religion and ethnicity. And if Nigeria must be one, then we must respect each other along whatever differences that we bring on board as Nigerians. So, ladies and gentlemen, gentlemen of the press, I thought I should make this clarification. This bill was read the first time, and by the grace of God, at the auspicious time, very soon, I hope to go to the chamber to debate, to lead the debate for the bill to be read the second time. And I'm sure, given the pedigree of my other 108 colleagues in the chamber, I expect nothing but a very robust debate and discussion. And that is how it's supposed to be. So for those who are already shooting and even going to the extreme of using words that by every definition is hate speech itself, please let them be guided. We want to build a country that we all have confidence in. I've read very good submissions from very eminent Nigerians, those who are academics, those who are in the industry, those who are in civil society, even traditional institutions, religious leaders, clerics, imams. Of course, in all the things they have said, one beautiful thing that came to my mind is the fact that we are all united against hate, against all forms of discrimination, and that everybody is concerned with the subject of death. Nobody wants to see death being unleashed on anybody. And I think that is very fundamental. To me, I'm happy we're having this conversation. As a nation, like somebody wrote to me, over the past 10 days or so, since since the bill was read. I've received all kinds of messages, some even including threats, but I'm not bothered about that. In all of this, if I receive one commendation, it gladdens my heart. And I did receive many commendations, but one stood out. And he said, there is so much hate in this country. We must check it. And so, ladies and gentlemen, all is not lost. I'm happy we're having this conversation. And let's have this conversation as responsible citizens. Whatever anybody will say, if you've never been a victim, or your loved one has never been a victim, then you will have the luxury of making statements anyhow as far as this subject matter is concerned. But I bet you, if you meet those who have lost their loved ones arising from violence due to ethnicity or religious intolerance and the like, I don't think they will be smiling with you when you tell them hate speech is nonsense. Or when you tell them hate speech does not exist. Or when you say, what is hate speech? They definitely know what hate speech is. They felt hate speech. They've seen hate speech. And they are living as victims of hate speech. So for me, I believe laws are made to check those of us who will choose to go to the extreme outside the area that we are supposed to operate, so that it serves as a deterrent. When laws are put in place and no offenses are committed, those laws become redundant. But one thing I know in this country is this: those few instances where we had issues, the same Nigerians have gone out to make commentaries. What are our leaders doing? What is the National Assembly doing? They are just killing people for nothing. And they are saying nothing. The only instrument to have is the instrument of legislation. And I've taken the opportunity to take on a very critical subject matter, and then some people will turn me into a monster.
Demonizing.
They will demonize me. I'm not moved. Because this is the subject of life. Nobody buys life in the market. Nobody came with a spear. You have only one life. When it is taken, it is taken. But what we want to see is, if my life is going to be taken, let it be taken under a thorough ambience of what everybody knows as acceptable way of taking life. That's what we are saying. Now, for those who think the ludicrous, assessment by some people that this is just another ploy to give the current president a third term, this is laughable, and it's a shame on those kind of thinking, because I don't see how that is related. If anything, I have seen studies being conducted where the issue of violence were being catalogued. For example, that of electoral violence. For me, it clearly shows that if we allow hate speech to fester, the relationship between it and good governance is clear. It means we will not get good governance. Even against the fight against corruption, we are all living witnesses to when somebody commits his crime and is being arrested, the next thing is to start aligning him to our fault lines from either religious perspective or ethnic perspective, leaving the crime the person has committed. Is that not the situation? So how does even this help the fight against corruption? So let's call a spade a spade. Many Nigerians are going about their business as innocent, conforming citizens, obedient citizens, and I think they deserve our protection. I don't see the difference, or I don't see where there is, what do they call it, the convergence between what people say free speech and hate speech. Even from their name, they are different. From their meaning, they are different. But we all know, as I'm standing here, I'm free to move. I'm free to do everything. I'm free to do so many things. But of course, where my freedom ends is where my good friends, where his freedom starts. If I move my hand and get to his face and give him a blow, I'm sure I'll be told that I've committed something wrong.
That's free blow.
Or is that a free blow? No. So, gentlemen of the press, honestly, this subject matter requires solemnness. It requires us to introspect as a nation. There are so many people who are out there. In the course of studying this subject matter, and I did quite a lot of study from that last assembly when I introduced it to date, I have come to realize that, in fact, hate speech has been used to silence some people. There are so many people who have been silenced. They've been kowtowed, they've been boxed to remain silent, despite the discrimination they are suffering from. And for us, the intendment of this bill is to provide a platform to cure some of these things and begin to move our country towards that love that we must share among ourselves. Because where there is so much love, we'll be able to push away hate. But the truth of the matter is that right now, like somebody wrote me saying, truly, there's so much hate in this country. A country like Kenya has at least understood the dynamics, and they've taken actions. Little wonder they are able to bring the two big rivals in public sphere to get them to understand that they need peace. Even if you want to be an opposition, you need peace to be a good opposition. So I believe this bill is necessary, and I'm doing a duty to this country, and irrespective of what people will say, I've done my part. It's going to go through the process. If finally Nigerians said no, at least I know I have tried. And so, for those who have said all the things they have said, they are entitled to their opinion, and it doesn't change any bit the reality that we have to deal with. If tomorrow there is hate speech and there is violence, God forbid, only God knows who will be victim. So this is why I thought I should come and make this clarification. I will yield the floor to my friend, since I've brought in here. What we are doing is a national duty, and I believe when you are doing anything that is called national duty, every good hand that wants to join to build something good is required. And so when this is coming from a very bosom friend of mine, a very articulate and fine Nigerian, a very detribalized Nigerian, I think it is welcome. So, Barrister.
Thank you. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, you have to do that in the presence or in the contending presence of his colleagues. But what I want to say, just to add, is that this bill, this anti-hate speech bill we are talking about, is different from your freedom of speech. You know part of the Constitution, and I challenge my friends that said it is against the Constitution to point out any section of the Constitution that said a person has a right to propagate, distribute, publish, and promote hate speech to the extent of allowing for bloodletting. As distinguished has said, it is because some of these persons or their loved ones have not become victims. There is no provision of our law or of our constitution precisely that said a man has a right to propagate hate speech. Now, we talk about free or critical speeches. No person can, by the provisions of our constitution, no person can take that right away from Nigerians. As an electorate, you have a right to question the act of your leaders as to how they are conducting the affairs of the country in which you are a citizen. That cannot be hate speech. So there is difference between hate speech, especially by the provisions of this bill. We are relying on ethnicity and religious intolerance. A situation where, let me use my ethnic or geographical attachment, where a German comes to the north, had a misunderstanding, maybe with a northerner, just business misunderstanding. Then I go back to my Ijaw land and say, these Hausa people have finished Ijaw people there. And then my brothers there now take up arms and start killing all the Hausa people there. Sorry. Am I supposed to be given a pat at my back for doing that? That is hate speech. If, for instance, my religious faith, I'm arguing with somebody, and he said, no, we do not look at it that way in our faith. I said, okay, you have abused my religious leader. And then I go and tell my fellow brothers that, look, this man has abused our religious leader. This was what he said. This was what he said. Then we now take up. And I never said that. And then those brothers will now go kill people from the other faith, burn down their worship centers and other things. Is that what Nigerians should clap hand for? But that is what we are saying is a free speech. God forbid for us to live in such an insane country. We are expecting a situation, I expected a situation where those who are thoroughly bred, educated, exposed, will take a copy of that bill, and without any element of religious, ethnic, or other bias, read it and then come up with a solution if there are areas that ought to be corrected. Because no law could be perfect. That's why there are provisions for amendment, even when they have been made. Apart from that, we also talk about bringing in a commission that will address ethnic problems when they are starting. That if, for instance, somebody is trying to instigate ethnic conflict, the commission members have the right or the statutory duty to go and see how that could be resolved before it takes away people's life. Is that the kind of bill that Nigerians will say it is bad as the devil? So what we want all of us to address our minds to is that whether this country wants to live in unity, in oneness, or otherwise. Why am I asking this question? Because when you allow these hate speeches, I am not talking about critical statements. Hate speeches. I emphasize on the word hate. Hate speeches. When we allow it to infect our body politics, it will be transferring from one generation to another. Nigeria one day will say goodbye. And these are sentiments or injurious and false statements made by persons who are not even as exposed, as matured, and as educated as ourselves. So the problem I know, and I must maybe concede here, is that when they had hate speech, maybe my friend from the other side will say, oh, hate speech, and I used to give hate speech, so it may catch up with me, so let us demonize it. That is it. So there is lack of, maybe we have not gotten to the extent of sensitizing the populace as to what is the meaning of hate speech. So everybody is giving him his own interpretation, not looking at what is in the provision of the bill. That is serious. It's like they are making their own bill on hate speech. So to put it, or to conclusively say it, please and please, we are just starting. And it is a good thing that we are bringing this on the table for Nigerians to see how we can promote our unity. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you very much. I've been joined by my
senior colleague. There's a process of enacting a law. The hate speech which has been mentioned in the floor of the House for the first time, it's just for the first time. It will go back for second reading. And you and me have the opportunity to speak for or against the bill. Like me as a lawmaker, as a senator, I will have the opportunity to speak when it comes for second reading. And you, as a member of the general public, you have the opportunity to approach the lawmakers during the public hearing of the bill. Why are we afraid of the bill? And more so, when a bill comes to the National Assembly, it's not every aspect, every section of the bill that will be taken. So it depends on what you and me present during the public hearing, or what I said during the second reading of the bill, for or against. So I see there's nothing for Nigerians to be afraid of this hate bill. Every day, everybody will say, some people make it to be political. Everybody has a senator in the chamber. And the National Assembly belongs to all the political parties. We have YPP, we have PDP, we have APC, and others, even in the House of Reps. So we all have National Assembly members that represent all of us. So I want to urge the press to educate the public on the issue of the hate speech. Everybody has opportunity. When it gets to the public hearing, you approach the lawmakers and voice out what you intend the bill to protect. So we are representing Nigeria, and I want to assure everybody that the 9th Senate will give all Nigeria a robust law that will protect the interests of everybody and individual as a country. Thank you very much.
Distinguished senators, 5 of our colleagues have indicated interest to ask questions, and I suggest that you take the 5 questions at a time, then we react to them. Okay. Okay, let's begin from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, the first one I want to really say is to, the man from, Disney. I challenge you to tell me how it was shut down. You see, you are a journalist. And I want to say that what you said here is falsehood. It's not hate speech, but it's falsehood. The reason is simple. When you say shut down, what is your definition of shut down? It's not the question of see the light of the day. I've told you here, listen to me, please. I've mentioned to you right here that I'm the sponsor of that bill. I'll be the one to tell the rules and business. I'm ready to go for my second debate. Okay? And I told you clearly, at the time I was preparing to go for the lead debate, to debate it, that's for second reading, I realized politics has already crept in. And the political atmosphere was charged. And I believe, based on the sensitivity of the subject matter, it will be instantly giving wrong alignment. So at my own volition, I did not take any action. So how does that amount to shut down?
Okay, between them and what has changed?
Excuse me, please. You've asked a question now. You've asked a question. But it's not a... Are we in court? No. I've not answered this question. Excuse me, please. I've not answered your question. I've not finished answering your question. You told me between that period and now what's changed. That's your follow-up question. So let me answer it now. Let me answer it. I've answered the first part of your question. And I'm saying that I, personally, did not take further action. And I gave you my reasons. Okay? Now, I will tell you, you say what have changed. I wouldn't know what your question is trying to look at. Change in terms of the circumstances that made me to introduce the bill, or what?
Between the first time you withdrew and now.
I didn't withdraw it. You see, please, I'm a parliamentarian. Okay? Excuse me. Sorry. I'm a parliamentarian. And as far as the work of parliament is concerned, we have language that we use. For me to withdraw the bill, I will stand up and move a motion on the floor of the Senate
So
that
is that the national address? That's what I said. You say this. No, this is interaction.
But I'm talking, you are interrupting me.
No, we call it interaction.
But you have to allow me to talk.
Okay.
You are saying that it was shut down, and I said, what is your evidence that it was shut down? And what's your definition of shut down? You said it never saw the light of the day. And I said, as far as that bill was concerned, I was the sponsor, and I did not take further action. It was not withdrawn, neither did I proceed to go for a second debate on it. And I gave you my reasons. And I said, to the glory of God, I'm back. And I believe in the basic reason why I introduced the bill in the first instance, that nothing has changed. In fact, if anything, hate speech is increasing by the day. And that explains why I felt I still believe in this cause. And that's why I'm introducing it again. This time around, I started early, so that whatever it is, we'll have ample time, devoid of politics, to look at these issues dispassionately, believing that the issue of life is not something you toy with. It's not something you sit down and casually talk about. It's a serious matter, because I know there are people who are victims of the subject we are talking about. This is my answer to you. Are you okay? Thank you. Now, the other aspect, I'll come back to my good friend. The existing bill. Like I said, I introduced this bill because I believe that subject of hate speech is assuming a life of its own. And I believe we must check it. Because a situation where, like my learned brother, the barrister, tried to give some analogy. People will just, they know, every Nigerian know that the fourth line existing in our relationship is two, basically: ethnicity and religion. And most of the violence are attributable to these particular issues. It's on that basis that I felt this bill is still necessary, and we should begin that conversation so that, if nothing, we can look at this subject matter. Now, you are saying there are laws of libel, defamations, and all those things. Those things do not fall into the definition of hate speech. They do not. Slander does not. They do not. Hate speech is hate speech. It's born out of hatred. It's tied down to something that will definitely reach the very foundation of your emotion. And I will say, if these laws you talked about are actually designed to address hate speech, how come that over the past 10, 15 years, research has shown that violence attributable to hate speech in Nigeria has been on the increase, and nobody has been brought to book? Nobody. All the communal clashes, ethnic clashes, religious clashes, I have not seen one where somebody has been brought to book. So these are very different things. When I come to debate this subject matter, we will provide details of what we believe in. And the other aspect you said is the executive dissociating itself from me. Am I executive? Am I executive?
Well, without them.
Whether they will sign or they will not sign it does not stop me from doing my duty as a legislator. And it's very important that you get this, because the angle from which you are bringing it, that is how you guys introduce crisis and conflict between the executive and the legislature. And it's bad. It's bad. No, it's bad. I'm just telling you. So the point I'm making is that does not stop anything. We have to do our job. I belong to the legislative arm of government. And whatever we do our own part. The executive will do their own part. And at any rate, I stand to disagree that the executive made any official comment on this. It was a minister who made a comment. And she made a comment in her own personal capacity. How does that amount to the executive making a comment? So please, let's get these things very straight. I don't want us to begin to trivialize this issue and debug it or bog it with all kinds of shenanigans. We shouldn't be doing that. Because for me, I want to say it very clearly, I'm standing here with the utmost sense of high responsibility to discuss this matter. Life, like I said, has no spear and is not sold in the market. So you can't even be talking about Tokumbo life and original life. There is even no market for it. So that is that. Now, the issue of corruption cases. As far as I know, that is where we have laws. Enough laws, plenty laws to tackle it. And there are still more that are being brought. If I have not thought about it, there is nothing in this wide world that prevents you, Fred Ichua, from coming with that bill and giving it to us here so that we introduce it. After all, you are a friend of the legislator. There's nothing. But what bothers me is what I have introduced. And I want to say it very clearly that many of the top corruption cases in this country, what do? We align the person to the two fault lines we have. Oh, it's because he's a Christian. Oh, it's because he's a Muslim. Oh, it's because he's Yoruba. Oh, it's because he's Igbo. Oh, it's because he's Hausa. Forgetting about the crime the person has committed. So where do we go from here? These are the issues. And at any rate, let me say that somebody talked about shutdown, isn't it? All right. Okay, yeah, sorry. That's the first one I did. Yeah, that's the first one. Thank you. All right. So, for me, as far as I'm concerned, we all have a duty. And there is no one single solution we'll provide here that will serve as a panacea to the problems that Nigeria has. But does that mean we are not going to make effort? We have to make effort. Those days, there was a time in this country. What is hate speech? Nobody knows it. Even if the time is there, nobody knows it. But over the past 20, 30 years, this thing has increasingly gotten a life of its own. And for those who think this subject matter is new, it's not. Different countries are addressing different components of how hate speech is tackled in their country. Because for us, for example, the fault lines for hate speech in Nigeria is ethnicity and religion. In other countries, it might be race. America that you talk about is race. Race is their major issue. You go to Germany, race. So these are the issues. Now, the aspect from my brother here who says we are chasing shadow. Well, the shadow has become a monster. So finally, we thought we are chasing shadow. But we have now seen that the shadow is a monster. It's not a shadow. Because with this aspect of hate speech, it's now becoming a monster. God forbid, all the crises that have happened in this country before, either from the religious perspective or from the ethnic perspective, which, like I have said, are the two fault lines, that promotes hate speech, when this crisis happened, can you say with all sincerity you'll be able to sieve out those people who are affected, and that those people who are affected are aware that they are going to be affected? No. So I think these are the points we must look at. And as far as I'm concerned, our jurisprudence is having its own definition of murder and the like. Isn't it? But what we are saying here, the concern is, why should somebody just come out and use a sentiment he knows people will easily not ask questions, but rather take the law into their hand and give a false information, which is the hate speech here? Then those people who listen to that will not take laws into their hand. I remember there is this case of the Alu 4 in River State. What happened? It was a simple argument between people. But the other party, who is a victim, who actually is the culprit, decided to use language that will incite people. And he incited those people successfully. They pounced on these 4 innocent boys and killed them. Is there anything we can do to bring them back today as we speak now? But go to the families that lost those young boys. They are in pain. And they will be in pain for the rest of their life. So, gentlemen of the press, I don't see where we have, clash or conflict. What we just want to do is to deliberate and discuss on this subject matter so that the right things can be done.
Okay.
So, I think I've addressed the...
Okay, you take 3 more.
Yeah.
The Punch, hold on. The Nation and Daily.
Journalists or media we are writing without. I said many Nigerians have made commentaries without. If you want, I can bring documents, reports, formal reports written by people where they themselves, they said in that report, I've not read the bill. You better.
Yeah, because of since
you are here with me since the 8th Senate, so how will I say you didn't see the bill?
Some of your colleagues that have spoken about the bill.
The problem with us is that we try at every turn of events to create animosity. And that's what you are trying to do. And I reject it. I reject it. I reject it. Bills, every single one of us can come with 20 bills. 20 senators can come with 20 bills on the same subject matter. And all of them will be taken. If it is in the view of the Senate that they appear to be the same, they will be consolidated. We've just consolidated the Public Procurement Act last week. So please, you are here. You are a very, very old and experienced journalist in this house. If you will be the one making this comment, honestly, I'll be disappointed.
I'm sorry, sir.
Please, let's drop that.
I was
No, I don't buy it. I don't buy it.
I don't buy it.
No, it has no bearing with what I'm saying. So if you have a question for me, ask a question for me. Okay. I spoke on my bill. What's my business with anybody's bill? Yeah, but you are stoking. You are stoking controversy. That's why you are not asking questions.
Now, in view of this opposition to the bill.
What opposition?
Okay, I rest my case, sir.
You see, people are making criticisms. Is criticism not part of democracy? Are you expecting? I'm not deceiving myself in any form that because I brought a bill, then it is wholesale, it is holy, it is perfect. No. The idea of bill processing is to allow participation, inclusion, discussion, so that at the end of the day, what comes out of it is something that has been thoroughly sieved. Angles that you have not seen as a sponsor, somebody will see and help you to perfect it. If at the end of the day, some of the punishments we are talking about, we go in, clause by clause will be there. People will argue it. If they want, they can even drop it. If they want, they can drop all the bill. To me, that wouldn't mean anything to me. Because that's democracy. So please, I don't want you to think I'm standing here because I want to defend the... No! I'm only doing my job. And I believed many of you had tried to call me from that 12. And I told you, I said, I'm indisposed. For those of you who spoke to me, even you, from the tone of my answering, you said, are you okay? I said, no, I'm sick. Is it a crime to be sick? So please, okay?
Please, distinguish.
No, I'm okay. I'm okay. Everybody's happy.
Many of our colleagues want to ask.
Let them go ahead. I said, don't worry.
Excuse me, sir. Hold on, please. Hold on. Let's guide ourselves now. Hold on, please. Hold on, please. After these two, we take two more, please. I will spend over 1 to 2 hours, please. Yeah, and if somebody has asked the question you intend to ask.
It was anything that was in process, excuse me. Okay, let me say the bill lapsed with the 8 tenants. That is the word. It lapsed, not died. You see, you asked for the right word. You want to create your own. So if you want to create your own, you can go ahead and create your own. I don't have any problem with that, though. You asked a question, and I told you that it elapsed with the effluxion of the 8th assembly time. That's all.
Chairman, can I go ahead?
Hold on, the nation, after the nation, hold on.
Distinguished, my name is Stanley. I write for the nation.
Haba, are you guys going to intimidate your leader?
No, he can't be intimidated. No, they can't use his speech on
After the nation, Daily Trust, Ahuraka, this person, and that young.
I am not in pain, my brother. I am only concerned. I am not in pain. I am only concerned. I am only concerned that my beautiful country, Nigeria, is drifting towards a path that I wasn't born in. A path that I believe, taking a cue from what is happening in other countries, if allowed to go unchecked, can lead to doom. God forbid. That is the concern that I have as a leader. I hope you are clear with that. So, you know, when you say pain, I'm a veterinary surgeon. And so pain can be defined in different forms. Except if there is a context that made you to say I'm in pain, which it will be your own entitlement. Your innate entitlement, as you have said. And I cannot question that. Okay? But I've told you my own innate entitlement. And there is no hate speech in everything we have said here. Are we clear? Now, let me say that within this context, I agree there is bad governance. I agree that things are wrong. But the question to ask here is that no matter how things are wrong, does that in any right give me the right to indulge, to engage in a manner that at the end of the day, I will be responsible for a crisis that will lead to other people losing their life? The answer is no. Is no. It is by discussing and engaging and dialoguing and allowing democracy to fester and to grow that we can solve the problems that we have talked about. And that is exactly what we are doing here. In some years past, like I said, nobody was talking about hate speech. Nobody was talking about hate speech. In the days of the military, people were talking about the press being gagged, the press being this and so. But democracy came and everybody has the freedom to talk. And with everything we are getting as rights, are there no Muslims? Are there no Christians? So what are we saying? So please, I don't think that is the issue. What we are saying here, within the context of hate speech, which there are so many definitions, but of note, I will tell you, Canada has a very robust law on hate speech. And there are so many conventions, European conventions, and other UN conventions that talked about the need for hate speech. And there is a definition by the Council of Ministers of Europe where they were very, very clear. If you take the word hate and you go into its dictionary meaning, it's talking about something that falls into the extreme, which you incite somebody in a manner that that person decides to resort to violence. That is hate speech. And there are things that follows it. So for us, these things are different. And by the way, you know, Nigerians, we know how to joke with ourselves. And when you are joking with me, and there is a cultural affiliation on that, I know it's a joke. That's why the thief man can look at the Fulani man and say whatever he wants to say. So we know the difference. We know the lines. So I don't think there is anything ambiguous here. And by the way, Nigeria is not the only country affected by this issue of hate speech. At the last count, there are more than 20 countries that have laws that directly is looking at issue of hate speech. Directly. So there's nothing sacrosanct we are doing here. But what we are saying is, given the context and happenings within the country, it is time for us to check this monster that is growing. And I think in the discussions that I have read, everybody is in unity with the fact that hate speech is an issue. It's an issue. You may disagree with perhaps certain provisions within the act, like one of the gentlemen here said, that, okay, I think it's my brother here, that the key issue is this issue of death by hanging. And the simple issue is this. At the place in that act, in that bill, where we said somebody will be guilty of an offense and that he could be punished along A, B, C, D, there are provisions, which is at the discretion of the judge. Our criminal justice system is not one act. It's a collection of acts. The Evidence Act is there. And I know whatever law you put here will be subjected to utilization by that. So, as far as the issue of taking life is concerned, which the Constitution in section 33 talked about, for God's sake, what did the lawyer say? It must be proven beyond reasonable doubt. So it will just be that because you said this. No. So I don't think we should make this thing look as if it is. So I don't think it's anything. That is just the truth. Now, the other thing somebody said here, law against incitement. The issue of the hate speech, when we debate it, we are going to provide additional definitions. The essence of writing a bill is that you have to build a consensus. So if you build a consensus, you have to agree on what that consensus will be. And I'm sure at the time this thing will be taken, that will be looked at. But incitement that you say, when you incite somebody to go and steal, it's incitement. When you incite somebody to go and slap somebody, that is assault. But when you incite somebody on the basis of making a statement, targeting, you see, for hate speech, it must be aligned to these 4 lines. That's what makes it significant. Because like we all know, these are the areas where all of us here are extremely sensitive on. Even among Muslims, even among Christians. You have a limit. He may be your friend. You go to church, he goes to church. But depending on his denomination, there are things you say, hey, my friend, don't go there. The same thing with Muslims. He prays, I pray. If he goes to something else, hey, leave it there. So we know these things. And what we are saying is, it is wrong simply because you don't belong to the same ideology with me or the same lines with me, I now use something, concoct some falsehood to get people who are in the same faith with me, or maybe who are my tribal people, to attack you simply because I don't like your faith or I hate you on the basis of that particular, difference between me and you. That's the point we are making. And I want to say that at the last count, as conservative as Japan is, they realize that issue is becoming a problem and they have a law on that, which was signed in 2016. So there are issues. Every country is tackling its issues based on its own specificity. There is nothing, sacrosanct about it. We are in Nigeria, and we believe what is good for our country is what we should do. Then finally, somebody talked about the issue of the definition of hate speech. Like I said, there are so many definitions, but all the definitions are clear about one thing. It must be hateful, which means something that is deep, something that is spoken deliberately to anger you, to make you feel, debased, or to dehumanize you. That is what we're talking about. And we all know it, because we know what words will be spoken to us, and we will feel bad. Even your friends, you will just finish eating now. He can touch one subject matter, you say, hey, my friend, you don't cross the red line. No. So I don't think these things are, strange. They are not strange. So, ladies and gentlemen, or gentlemen of the press, I hope that I have answered all the questions you've asked. And like I said, one of my...
And after this, there's